He stood in front of the mirror again, lifting his shirt in the soft morning light. Same roundness, same weight pressing on his waistband. Gerald was 74, and no matter what he did, less bread, more walking, skipping dinner, the belly wouldn't budge. He didn't talk about it. Men like him didn't complain about their bodies. But he noticed. Every day. The doctor said he was aging well. But Gerald knew that wasn't the full truth. He got tired quicker. He felt heavier, slower. His sleep was lighter, his digestion weaker. And every time he bent down to tie his shoes, his stomach pressed into his thighs, reminding him that something wasn't right. What made it harder was how invisible it felt. This wasn't a six-pack quest. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He just missed feeling like himself, missed waking up without that sluggish pressure in his gut, missed feeling light enough to stretch, breathe, and move without discomfort. There's a quiet kind of shame that grows with age. Not loud or dramatic, but persistent. You don't fit into your old pants. You don't recognize the body that once carried groceries up the stairs without effort. And sometimes, even your family begins to treat you like someone fragile. That's the part that stings. But what Gerald didn't know then, what many don't, is that belly fat at 70 doesn't follow the same rules as it did at 40 or 50. You can eat salad for lunch, skip dessert, and still gain inches around your waist. And it's not about willpower, it's biology. Your hormones shift, your digestion slows, your muscle mass declines. The body burns less, stores more. So it's not your fault. And yet, that doesn't make it easier to accept, especially when your own efforts seem to fail you. Gerald had tried walking groups, a few diet trends his daughter mentioned, and even those fiber drinks that promise the world. Nothing stuck. And nothing seemed to understand what his body really needed, until one small, surprising shift in his morning routine started to change everything. It wasn't a diet, it wasn't exercise, it was just a drink. Natural, inexpensive, and surprisingly effective, not because it burned fat directly, but because it spoke to the real issue, how his aging body needed to be reawakened gently, not forced into change. He didn't believe it at first, but by day 4, something felt different. And by day 10, even his doctor raised an eyebrow and asked, "What have you been doing?" It started with noticing, then with trusting, and finally with one simple habit, taken each morning before anything else. And if you're still reading, maybe a part of you recognizes Gerald's quiet discomfort, that stubborn belly, that silent doubt, but also, maybe, that small spark of curiosity. What if your body hasn't given up yet? What if it's just waiting for you to listen differently? Gerald always thought his belly was just fat, excess, left over from years of bread baskets and late-night snacks. But what he didn't realize, and what most people over 70 don't, is that this kind of fat is not just sitting under the skin like a soft pillow. It's deeper, more dangerous, and far more stubborn. It's called visceral fat, and it doesn't just make your pants tight. It wraps itself around your organs, your liver, your intestines, even your heart. It's not visible in the mirror, but it's felt in your energy, your sleep, your breath when you climb stairs. It's the kind of fat that doesn't respond to simple calorie cutting or walking around the block. It's rooted in inflammation, stress hormones, and years of slow metabolic change. That's why Gerald's efforts didn't seem to work. He was fighting the wrong enemy with the wrong tools. Visceral fat behaves differently after 70. As the years pass, muscle mass decreases naturally, a process called sarcopenia. With less muscle, your metabolism slows. Your body becomes more insulin resistant, and even if you're eating less than before, the food you eat is more likely to be stored than burned. And that's not just frustrating, it's frightening. Because visceral fat isn't passive, it's active. It releases inflammatory chemicals that affect your heart, your blood sugar, even your brain. Studies have linked it to memory decline, fatigue, and higher risk of stroke. That heaviness in the belly isn't just weight, it's a warning. But here's the part nobody talks about. Most older adults don't even realize they have visceral fat. You can be thin and still carry it. You can feel fine and still be at risk. That's what makes it so dangerous. It's quiet. It doesn't scream. It whispers, through small signs: constipation, shallow sleep, a constant low-grade tiredness. The belt that used to close on the third hole now sits on the fifth. Gerald had noticed those whispers, but like many, he blamed aging. "It's normal," he told himself. "What do you expect at my age?" But normal doesn't mean harmless. The drink he discovered wasn't some magic potion, but it worked, not by burning fat instantly, but by changing what was happening inside. It lowered inflammation. It soothed the gut. It gently shifted his body out of storage mode and back into balance. It created the right environment for his body to finally let go of what it no longer needed. And when that happened, the weight started moving, not just physically, but emotionally. Because for the first time in years, Gerald didn't feel stuck. He felt like something was finally unlocking. And it all started with realizing that his belly wasn't just about looks or numbers on a scale. It was a signal, a message his body had been trying to send all along. Gerald didn't expect much from the drink. It wasn't sold in shiny bottles or promoted by fitness influencers. It didn't promise overnight miracles or bold claims. It was simple, almost too simple. A mix of 3 natural ingredients taken first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. He had read about it in a small health newsletter his neighbor left in the mailbox by mistake, and something about it, maybe the timing, maybe the quiet tone of the article, spoke to him. The drink combined warm water, a slice of lemon, and a pinch of cinnamon. That's it. No powders, no supplements, no expensive add-ons, just what was already in his kitchen. But what made the drink work wasn't just what was in it. It was when and how he took it. Every morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before anything touched his digestive system. This timing gave the body a chance to hydrate deeply, signal the metabolism to wake up, and gently activate digestive enzymes without distraction. The lemon, rich in vitamin C and polyphenols, helped reduce inflammation and encouraged liver detoxification. The warm water, often overlooked, helped stimulate the intestines, promoting regularity and better absorption of nutrients. And the cinnamon? That was the secret spice. It helped stabilize blood sugar levels, making Gerald less prone to cravings and afternoon energy crashes. At first, he didn't notice much. Day 1 felt like any other. Day 2, maybe a little less bloated. By day 3, he felt lighter, not just in body, but in mood, less foggy, a bit more motivated to move around. And by day 5, something remarkable. The stiffness in his gut eased. His belt closed 1 notch tighter, not because he'd lost weight, yet, but because the swelling had gone down. He began to feel awake in a way he hadn't for years. The drink wasn't flashy, but it was consistent. It didn't try to fight his body, it partnered with it. And after decades of trying to push through or cut back, that gentleness was exactly what his body responded to. There's a quiet power in starting the day with something that tells your system, "I'm here. I'm listening. I care." And it wasn't just Gerald. Many older adults overlook hydration and metabolic triggers in the morning. Skipping breakfast, sipping coffee first, or eating too late at night, these habits disrupt the very rhythm that supports belly fat loss. This drink wasn't a cure. It was a conversation, a small ritual of care that built trust between his body and his mind again. Engagement. Prompt. Have you ever tried a morning drink to help your belly? Tell me in the comments what worked or didn't. Your story might help someone else who's still searching for that first small change. Gerald didn't wake up on day 10 expecting anything dramatic. There was no scale waiting by the bathroom door, no measuring tape on the counter. He had almost forgotten he was doing anything at all, just sipping his warm drink each morning, quietly, alone. But that morning, when he buttoned his pants, he paused. They didn't resist. They slid on and closed with ease. It wasn't imagination. Something had shifted. The science behind what was happening inside his body made more sense than any fad diet he'd tried before. And it all started with how the body responds to consistency, especially when it comes to digestion and inflammation. By the time you're in your 70s, your gut microbiome, those trillions of bacteria that regulate digestion, immunity, and even mood, has likely weakened. Years of processed foods, medications, and stress wear it down. That weakens nutrient absorption, slows metabolism, and allows harmful bacteria to thrive. But consistency changes that. When Gerald drank his morning mixture daily, he wasn't just hydrating. He was resetting his gut rhythm. The lemon stimulated bile production, which helped his liver digest fats more efficiently. The cinnamon balanced his insulin response, preventing blood sugar spikes and dips. And the warm water flushed out overnight waste gently, reducing bloating from day one. Day by day, these micro-changes began building on each other. By day 4, inflammation had decreased enough that his joints felt less stiff and his stomach less tight. By day 6, his bowel movements had normalized. Not something most people talk about, but a critical signal that the body is healing from the inside out. And around day 8, something more subtle happened. His appetite stabilized. No more craving crackers late at night. No more empty hunger after lunch. His body began trusting the routine, responding with less urgency and more balance. Scientists call this process homeostasis, the body's way of seeking balance when given the right tools. But balance takes time. And for people like Gerald, who had spent years unknowingly in a state of metabolic confusion, 10 days was the beginning of clarity. It wasn't rapid fat loss. It was inflammation reduction, improved insulin sensitivity, restored gut function. These are the real levers behind belly shrinkage at 70, and none of them can be forced. They have to be supported, gently, daily, and with care. By day 10, Gerald hadn't just lost inches. He had gained momentum. His body no longer felt like something he had to fight. It felt like something working with him again. And that changed everything. Gerald never set out to be an example. He wasn't the kind of man who shared before and after photos or joined support groups. He was quiet, private. A man who had always believed in handling things on his own. But something about this experience, this slow, almost accidental transformation, felt different and worth sharing. At 74, Gerald had grown used to being overlooked. At family gatherings, he stayed in the background. His grandkids called him Gramps, but didn't stay long in the room. His daughter often asked if he was doing okay, in that tone adults use when they're worried but don't want to pry. He said yes, always yes. But the truth? He didn't feel okay. He hadn't seen his feet in years without bending forward. He hadn't slept through the night since his late 60s. He walked slower, avoided stairs, and stopped wearing belts. The belly wasn't just physical, it was emotional. It stood between him and his confidence, his independence, even his joy. He never told anyone how much it bothered him, that he didn't feel like the man his wife married, that every morning putting on clothes felt like a negotiation, that his own body felt unfamiliar. And then came the drink. Quiet, easy, almost forgettable. But after 10 days, something woke up inside him. Not just his metabolism, not just his digestion, but his sense of possibility. It started with how his clothes fit, then how he moved. Then, one morning, his grandson Danny ran into the kitchen and said, "Gramps, you look skinny." It wasn't about the word skinny. It was the sparkle in his grandson's eyes, the attention, the connection. Gerald laughed. He hadn't laughed like that in months, and from that day on he stood taller, walked longer, started going outside again just to feel the breeze. He even called an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years just to say hello. Not because of the drink, but because the drink started something. A return. Gerald's story isn't about magic. It's not about 10 days to a perfect body. It's about noticing one small thing that leads to another. It's about realizing that the chapter of decline so many expect after 70 doesn't have to be the story you live. It can be rewritten with patience, with presence, with something as humble as a morning drink. And maybe, if you're reading this with a belly you no longer recognize, a body that feels slower than your spirit, a hope that's almost too faint to name, maybe you're more like Gerald than you think, and maybe your story can change too. Gerald didn't need to buy anything special. That's what surprised him most. After a lifetime of being marketed to vitamins, programs, expensive foods, he didn't expect something so ordinary to do so much. But these three ingredients, when used together, created a quiet shift that felt anything but ordinary. The first was lemon, just a fresh slice, squeezed into warm water. It sounds simple, even boring, but the science behind it is powerful. Lemon is rich in antioxidants, especially vitamin C and flavonoids, which help reduce internal inflammation. For older adults, whose bodies often carry low-grade inflammation from years of processed foods, stress, and medications, this one addition can gently start cleaning the system. It also stimulates bile production, which is essential for digesting fats, something the aging digestive system struggles with. The second was cinnamon. Not a whole spoonful, just a pinch, enough to awaken the bloodstream. Cinnamon contains compounds that help lower blood sugar and improve insulin sensitivity. And after 70, insulin resistance becomes a silent issue for many. You might not be diabetic, but you may still deal with spikes and crashes that lead to belly fat storage. Cinnamon helps flatten that roller coaster. It gives your body a chance to use energy more efficiently and burn rather than store. The third ingredient was warm water itself, often ignored, but never irrelevant. Warm water, especially on an empty stomach, does more than hydrate. It wakes up the intestines. It stimulates peristalsis, the wave-like movement that pushes waste through the digestive tract. Many older adults live with sluggish digestion and think it's just a part of aging, but sometimes the body just needs a little warmth to begin again. Each ingredient by itself offers benefits, but together, they create a chain reaction. The lemon clears the way, the water moves it along, the cinnamon balances the aftermath. It's like giving your body a small team of helpers first thing in the morning, and timing matters. Taking this drink before coffee, before food, before the rush of the day gives your body a moment to prepare. It's not about tricking your metabolism, it's about respecting its rhythm. When Gerald took his drink daily, his system began to expect it. His digestion became more regular. His cravings softened. His energy felt smoother. There's no mystery, just chemistry. And the beauty of it? Anyone can try it. You don't need to wait for permission from a specialist or approval from a diet plan. You just need a mug, a lemon, a bit of cinnamon, and 5 quiet minutes. That's how Gerald started. Not with a goal, not with pressure, just with a choice. One that began rebuilding the trust between him and his body, one sip at a time. Gerald once thought it didn't matter when you did healthy things. Just that you did them. Whether you drank water in the morning or at night, walked at noon or in the evening, it was all good, right? But as he kept up with his morning drink, he noticed something strange. The days he skipped it, or drank it later, didn't feel the same. His energy lagged. His digestion was slower. That subtle lightness he had started to enjoy was missing. It wasn't just the ingredients that mattered, it was the timing. At 74, Gerald's internal clock, like most people's, had shifted. The body's natural circadian rhythm, the one that governs hormones, digestion, and fat metabolism, no longer moved at the pace it used to. Melatonin released earlier. Cortisol, the hormone that helps regulate metabolism and blood sugar, peaked earlier in the day. The body wanted rhythm. It craved routine. And morning was the most powerful window to set that tone. When you give your body the right cues in the morning, everything else follows. Drinking warm lemon water with cinnamon on an empty stomach triggers hydration after hours of sleep, stimulates digestive enzymes, and gently raises body temperature, activating the metabolism. The cinnamon also helps regulate the morning cortisol spike, preventing it from turning into a blood sugar roller coaster that ends in belly fat accumulation by mid-afternoon. And then there's insulin. As you age, insulin sensitivity tends to decrease, especially in the evening. This means that eating or drinking sweet, heavy, or starchy things at night, even fruits or milk, can more easily be stored as fat, particularly in the belly area. But in the morning, your body is more receptive, more efficient. It uses rather than stores. It burns instead of hoards. That's why nighttime versions of the drink didn't work the same way for Gerald. A friend of his tried it at dinner and wondered why nothing changed. But when she switched to mornings, before her tea, before breakfast, she called Gerald and said, "I think I finally get it. It's not about discipline or doing more. It's about aligning with the body you have now, honoring its pace, listening to the windows it opens instead of trying to force the ones it closes." And something else happened when Gerald made his drink part of his morning ritual. It gave him structure, a reason to begin the day with intention, a moment that was just his, quiet and grounding. That small act of care at the beginning of each day set the tone, not just for his belly, but for his mindset. Because when you start your morning with something that says, "I care about this body," the body starts to believe you. And sometimes, that belief is exactly where healing begins. Gerald didn't expect to feel anything in the beginning. He wasn't waiting for magic. He just wanted to try. But by the third morning, something subtle shifted. And it wasn't on the scale. It was in his body's whispers. A lighter step, a calmer stomach, a different kind of hunger. It started with hydration. After decades of relying on coffee to start the day, switching to warm water with lemon and cinnamon was a shock to the system, but a good one. His mouth wasn't dry anymore when he woke up. His stomach, which usually felt tight and acidic, relaxed. There was a warmth that spread from the inside, as if his body was finally receiving the message, "You're safe. You can start." On the second day, the bathroom visits changed. Gerald had lived with quiet constipation for years, not severe, just enough to make his stomach feel full and sluggish most of the time. But suddenly, his digestion responded. He didn't feel rushed or uncomfortable, just regular, like something inside him had clicked back into place. And then came day 3. He felt hungrier than usual. At first, it worried him. Wasn't this supposed to reduce belly fat? Why did he feel like snacking again? But hunger, true hunger, is a good sign. It means your metabolism is waking up, that your body is digesting, absorbing, using fuel efficiently again. Many older adults confuse this signal. After years of eating less to stay in shape, their bodies have adapted by slowing down. Reawakening metabolism often comes with a return of hunger, and that's not a failure. That's a victory. Still, this isn't the kind of hunger that leads to overeating. Gerald noticed that when he ate after the drink, his cravings were calmer. He didn't want sugar. He didn't feel the urge to snack at night. His meals felt more satisfying, even when they were smaller. His body seemed to know what to do again. He also noticed he had more energy. Not bursts of excitement, but steadier focus. A desire to get up from the couch. A curiosity about going for a walk. These shifts weren't dramatic, but they felt personal, like rediscovering an old part of himself. And it wasn't just Gerald. Many people in their 70s report similar early signs when they reintroduce hydration, warmth, and metabolic support in the morning. The key is not expecting fireworks, but listening to the soft reawakening of the body's rhythm. These first 3 days are about trust, trusting that your body remembers how to function well, trusting that care doesn't always feel dramatic. It often feels like relief. It's in those small signals, the ease, the softness, the gentle hunger, that the real transformation begins. Not because something is being forced, but because something is finally being allowed. Gerald started this journey for his belly. He wanted his pants to fit, to breathe without that heavy pressure in his gut. But what he didn't expect, what no one had told him, was that the changes would reach far beyond his waistline. Around the 7th day, he looked in the mirror and noticed something different. Not about his belly, but his skin. It looked brighter, less dull. The dark circles under his eyes had softened. Even his cheeks seemed fuller, like his face had remembered how to hold life again. That's what happens when inflammation goes down. Your skin reflects your insides. For years, Gerald had blamed his skin issues on getting old. But the body often shows stress and imbalance through the skin, dry patches, dullness, uneven tone. By reducing internal inflammation and improving hydration from the inside out, The morning drink helped his face begin to glow again, quietly, naturally. But the most surprising shift was his energy. Gerald didn't bounce around like a teenager. That's not what this is. It was subtler, more dignified. He didn't need a nap at 11 a.m. He could focus during conversations without drifting. He walked farther without realizing it. And more than once, he caught himself humming while cooking, a small joy he hadn't noticed missing. There's a deep emotional shift that comes with these physical changes. You stop waiting for the crash. You stop guarding your energy so tightly. You start engaging again, with the day, with people, with yourself, and others noticed. At his weekly doctor's appointment, his physician asked, "Are you doing something different?" Gerald shrugged, but the smile gave him away. His daughter, usually rushing in and out during visits, sat a little longer and asked him what he'd been eating. When he told her about the drink, she paused. "That's it?" He nodded. "Every morning, same cup, same time." Even his grandkids reacted. When Danny curled up beside him on the couch, he rested his head against Gerald's chest and said, "You smell like cinnamon toast." And maybe that was part of the magic, too. Reclaiming presence, intimacy, nearness. That belly that once felt like a barrier between Gerald and the people he loved had softened. Not just in size, but in what it meant. Because what this journey showed wasn't just that his body could change. It was that he could. That he was still responsive, still capable of surprise, still worthy of attention and care. The belly had been the starting point, but the real reward was feeling alive again. Not younger, not perfect, just real, awake, connected. And sometimes, that's the part people notice most, even before you do. Gerald never imagined that something so simple could open so many doors, not just to better digestion or a smaller belly, but to a quieter, more peaceful version of himself, a version that felt proud to walk into a room. That didn't avoid mirrors. That didn't tighten his belt out of habit, but because it finally fit. He didn't share his story to be impressive. He shared it because he knows how it feels to believe change has passed you by. He knows the silent frustration, the weight, not just around your middle but in your chest, of feeling invisible. And he knows the power of discovering that your body hasn't given up on you. It's been waiting, listening, hoping you'd try again, with kindness this time. So could this drink work for you too? Maybe. Maybe not in the same way, not with the same timeline. But if your belly has felt stuck, if your mornings feel heavy, if food leaves you more bloated than satisfied, then maybe this isn't just about the drink. Maybe it's about remembering that your health doesn't need to look like it did at 40. It just needs to support the life you want now. Because you deserve to feel light, not just in your body, but in your days. You deserve to wake up and move without bracing yourself. You deserve to sit at a table and enjoy a meal without guilt or discomfort. You deserve to take a walk and not worry if others are waiting for you to catch up. This isn't about losing weight to fit an old photo. It's about reconnecting with the person you still are, the one who hasn't disappeared just because the years have passed. The drink is a beginning, a gesture, a message to your body. I haven't forgotten you, and often that message is all your body has been waiting for. Engagement. Prompt. Which of these signs have you noticed in yourself lately? The slow digestion, the tired mornings, the silent belly weight that doesn't go away? Let me know in the comments. You're not alone. And sometimes, just saying it out loud is the first real step.